It's an exciting ASCO 2024 in head and neck cancer. There were three specific studies that I got to discuss and consider that potentially can change practice. The first is the much anticipated IMRT versus IMPT, the Proton therapy phase 3 study in head and neck cancer. We've been waiting 10 years for this. Finally, there's some phase 3 data. Kudos to Steve Frank and his group for leading the effort. And essentially what it showed is that, first of all, if you use proton therapy for head and neck cancer, cure rates are the same, efficacy is the same. There's no concern about it being too tight and missing tumor, which is great. Kind of what we all expected, but also great to see the confirmation. Most importantly, though, the idea is with more precise radiation, can side effects be reduced? And what they showed was specifically with feeding tube use, the rates of feeding tube use were significantly decreased. Patients who got proton therapy had a much lower chance of needing a feeding tube in general, and even if they did need a feeding tube, it was for much less of a time. So that was a big win for proton therapy in head and neck cancer.
Hi, Cancer Warrior here. Sorry to break into this video, but if you've made it this far, you probably love this type of content. We put out a newsletter that you can sign up for right in the description. You might be very interested in all the other content that we have. We go to all the major conferences, ASCO, ASH, SABCS, ESMO, all of them. And we also do special programs as well. So sign up for that newsletter if you're interested, and you'll get some more content just like this. Now, back to the video.
The second big win, maybe even a bigger win, is Nancy Lee's group at Sloan Kettering published their biomarker trial using F MISO, which is a hypoxia imager, fancy PET scan looking for a decrease in blood flow and lack of oxygen in the tumor. And what she found was that tumors that don't have oxygen in the beginning and despite a few weeks of treatment still have low oxygen levels, they don't do as well. They went to the high dose. But the overwhelming majority of patients, even though they had big tumors on their scans, even though the PET scans lit up, on the hypoxia imaging, they did not have significant amounts of hypoxia. Their tumors had plenty of oxygen. And in those cases, they did great. They re-scanned them 3 weeks into chemo-radiation. And if their scans look good, which probably about 80% did, they stopped. They stopped chemo-radiation after 3 weeks instead of going all the way to 7 weeks. It's a huge decrease in treatment, toxicity, side effects, problems, cost, everything. And their cure rates were through the roof. So it is a potential game changer. The problem is none of us have F MISO FDA approved. We can't use it's a special PET scan. However, the good news is Nancy announced that she is launching a phase 3 study that she has vetted through the FDA to prove that using this F MISO scanner, she can reduce the amount of chemoradiation we give in these patients by more than half. And if that goes through, that'll be a complete game change for all of our HPV positive head and neck cancer patients, which is amazing. The third was the pathway study, which tried once again to try to show a role for immune therapy after curative head and neck cancer therapy. Smaller study, we all know the Javelin 100 trial, the Keynote 412 were disappointing. Those studies were negative. We still don't use immunotherapy in these patients. This was another attempt. It was kind of a weird study in that they had like 6 or 7 different ways to get in lots of different cohorts of high-risk patients. That said, there was a progression-free survival benefit to the use of immune therapy. No overall survival benefit. It was only a 100-patient study. So my takeaway is probably not big enough, not powerful enough, not enough of a difference to change practice and to get approval. But again, hints to the fact that if we could be a little smarter in who we select, be a little smarter in probably PD-L1 high patients, there is probably a role for adjuvant immunotherapy after curative head and neck cancer. We just got to get a little smarter about studying those specific cohorts who are most likely to benefit.
You made it all the way through that video. YouTube thinks you might like this one. What do you think?